You're listening to the Oh Come On Sports Podcast with me, Natasha Staniszewski. Come on now!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Oh Come On Sports Podcast. Happy Friday to you. I guess happy day, whatever day it is when you happen to be listening to this. Sometimes not everybody listens to it right when it comes out. I'm Natasha. I'm in Calgary. Al is over in Toronto. Hello.
How's it going?
It's going.
Nice to see you, Natasha. Yeah. Is it the usual first question is what's the weather like? How we doing in Calgary today?
Yeah, we got to stop talking about the weather, don't we?
I know we totally do.
The smoke is gone for the most part, but it's pretty cloudy and it's pretty gloomy out there today. But that's okay. The smoke seems to have dissipated. So hopefully it doesn't come back. Yes.
Good stuff. Good to hear. It's still hot in Toronto. It's been hot all week, and it's still hot. It's supposed to get a little more cool into the weekend, but yeah, all good.
So when you're out golfing in this heat, you went out yesterday, I think. How does that affect your game, or are you like laser focused?
Oh man, I wish I had. Yeah, I wish there are other variables involved that affect my game more than the heat, which is like a bad swing. But no, you know what? I find I'm a fan of like the 6:45 a.m. tee times, to be honest. Like 100%. You know, I know it sucks at 6 o'clock when you're leaving, and it really sucks then. But the heat is one thing, you know, that there's not nearly as congested. There's something about that smell of grass, and it sounds so corny to say, but there's something about that. For me, I now refer to it as the smell of golf. Just that freshly cut grass smell. I love it. So yeah, it sucks at 6 a.m., but by 7 o'clock and you're on that second tee, it's the perfect time to be out.
I cannot agree more. I am not a morning person, and I was thinking recently, all this year, I've only ever played evening rounds or afternoon rounds, and I need to get out for a morning round because golf is the one thing that I'm like, okay, I can do this in the morning. And every time I do, like when it's that early, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. But then you get out there and it's the smell of the grass or the dew or something that you're just like, and your cells open up and your pores are awake and the oxygen, you start sucking it in, and it's just great. Yeah. So I get the morning golf for sure.
Couldn't agree more, except for the pores thing. I don't know too much about the pores thing, but yeah, you know what? I'm not going to take your word for it. I'm going to take your word for the on the pores thing. But speaking about golf, it's a fun golf weekend, right? This weekend, it's a big tournament. Nice segue into some sports talk.
You know what, though? There's a few big tournaments. Of course, there is the Northern Trust going on, which is huge. There is the AIG Women's Open Championship, which is also huge. But I am also playing this weekend, Ali, in a tournament or an event that I've been looking forward to all summer. The PGA of Canada puts on, I guess it's, an event, a tournament where you can find 3 of your best golfing friends, sign up for qualifiers all across the country. And if you make it through the qualifier and the regionals and the playoffs, you can go all the way to the national championship. I don't know if they call it the national championship, but that's basically what it is. The best teams across Canada, amateur teams. And we get to go play at Cabot in the Maritimes. So my qualifier is this Saturday. I finally managed to round up a team. We had some cancellation issues or whatever, but Saturday in Innisfail, Alberta, the 4 of us are going to get out there and we are going to try to win this thing.
Well, we should be talking about that. No, so you're playing in the Scramble, which is a huge event, obviously. Amazing. I've heard so many good things about it. I know the popularity of that has grown amazingly over the last few years. It's, as with golf. I wish you all the best. Well, we have to make sure. Okay, so next week, we need at least a 5-10 minute review on not only Natasha's team's game, but on Natasha's game. Was the driver working? Was the short iron your game? Are you okay? So actually, on that note, do you have like a go-to club? Is there one club that you feel most comfortable with versus other ones?
I would say right now I'm hitting my driver the best, actually, which is good because I like having some confidence off the tee. But my favorite clubs, it's a love-hate relationship, but when I hit my 3-wood well, it feels so good. So I do enjoy my 3-wood. Yeah.
The long ball. No pitching wedges or 9 irons for you. Well, I like it. Driver and 3-wood. Well done.
I have to work on my short game big time. I think the wedge will one day become my favorite club, actually, but I just don't have the touch yet. I have to put the work in. Gotcha. I'm just not there yet.
It's so variable, isn't it? Yeah. One day it's great and the next day it's gone. So I know that inconsistency all too well. Way too well.
So my handicap is 27 because of my short game, I would say, but all my girlfriends, they're down at like 14, 16, 6.
Okay.
So they're totally going to carry us this Saturday. I need to just help out with some drives and maybe the odd putt, and we'll see what happens. So
that's the key to the scramble, is surrounding yourself with a quality team.
Right.
So you don't have the pressure on you, and to be a subject matter expert, right? To be maybe it's going to be, you're going to be that fairway wood. You're going to be that, 200 out. You're taking them down the kind of down the pipeline. But that's cool. Have a lot of fun. Hope the weather's good. Hope everything stays dry and not too hot.
Yes.
And I look forward to hearing the report back next week on your performance.
All right. I hope it's a good one. But yeah, golf. The FedEx Cup Playoffs, this is a great time of year. And we talked before about how the Canadians always seem to be, one of them at least, always seems to be at the top of the leaderboard during the big events. And this time so far, it's been no different. Mackenzie Hughes is right up there. I think he was a 4 under 67 after the very first round. So he's in the hunt. And last year he had to hit an 8-foot putt just to make the Tour Championship. This year he was in the final group of the U.S. Open, I believe it was. So he has that experience, right? At these nervous moments now, like he's getting those championship day experience. What am I trying to say? You know what I'm trying to say with the pressure.
I do. No, you're absolutely right. I think, and it's cool to see, because I mean, the amount of parity there is in golf, right? There's like the top 10 players are all pretty damn good, and anyone can win on any given day. So to see him do it consistently in big tournaments is huge. And I think, you're right. So even today, I'm looking right now, and he is 3 under for the day, sitting at -7 in 5th place right now. So continuing to perform well, and there's some pretty big names above him, Johnny Rahm being the first one. But no, I agree. It's great to see the Canadians playing. I know Corey Connors was under as well yesterday. I think he was a -1. And is off, I think, in a couple hours. So I'll be watching this afternoon and cheering on the Canadians. But this is to your point, this is the beginning of, like any sport, the beginning of the playoffs is fun, and this is no different, right? All the storylines start to emerge a little bit more now, and there's some really cool ones this year. I think John Rahm is being the best player in the world right now, obviously, given his performance over the last couple of tournaments. And it's too bad he missed out on the Olympics because of COVID and everything else. Would have been interesting to see that. But what's your most intriguing storyline for the FedEx Cup for the playoffs?
Well, I was just going to say, I hate it when the favorite wins. Like, I don't want John Rahm to win. I want some better storylines. I want the underdogs to win. I don't know if Rory's ever an underdog, but it'd be nice to see him win instead. Adam Scott, Colin Morikawa, these guys are all great. I just want to see a different guy win, I guess. And
what about,
obviously, to see a couple of Canadians make the cut? They go from 125 people to 70 to make the BMW Championship. So hopefully some of the Canadians make it through.
Absolutely. What about every sports fan loves a good redemption story, right? What about Spieth? And not that he's been too far off the pace the last couple of years, but he has fallen off and now seemingly has found his groove. I think he's second right now, second right now to Morikawa. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out for him in the next little bit. He is typically been the opposite of what we'll see from you in terms of your pressure putting and your pressure game. He typically falls off in these kind of big events, but it'll be interesting to see if he can keep this going.
Yeah, I suppose it would be a redemption story. I don't know. I'm a fan of Jordan. I don't mind him one way or another. Again, I like to see different guys win.
Totally.
I like to see different names up there. That's where you get the better stories, I think. Yeah. Guys who've never won it before, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I also appreciate the characters in golf. And this is interesting because this time of year last year was when the whole Brooks and Bryson thing really started to develop. I don't know if you remember, but it was at this tournament where the caddies were going back and forth a little bit, and there was a little bit of jawing back and forth. That stuff happened at an Emirates tournament previously as well. But this is kind of where the beginning of that rivalry. And I don't know, call me a controversy freak, whatever. I like that. I like the personality, right? I like it more than I like to see more than just the amazing performance on the course. I like seeing a little personality and some flaws, some of the vanity versus kind of self-assurances that these guys have. I like that part of it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit lukewarm on that whole thing with those two. I don't find either of them particularly likable to begin with.
Okay.
So now that they have this little feud going, if that's what even it is, because apparently it's just manufactured. There's like a rumor they're just doing it on purpose to get the attention, whatever. I don't know if I love it. I don't know why I'm being such a baby about this, because you're right. Usually it's good to have like these rivalries and these I don't know, the trash talking and stuff, but I don't know.
Well, typically you want someone who's kind of the hero. To take an old wrestling analogy, the hero and the heel, the villain. And in this case, there isn't really a hero. I suppose they're both kind of villainous. I suppose.
Maybe that's why. Maybe they both feel like villains to me. But again, I'm not sure why. They haven't done anything wrong. I don't know. Bryce, he comes off as a little bit arrogant.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know. I have to do some deep thinking about that. Probably my own issues with something. I'm not sure. I don't know.
But you can't argue with the way Bryson has changed the game, right? I mean, it's amazing, right? That's that kind of stuff. The evolution of any sport, I think, is pretty cool. And we're looking at an evolution right now, right? They're actually changing courses to adapt to the way this guy is hitting the ball, and others are following suit. And I think that's a really cool, a kind of a growing up process that the game kind of has to go through.
See, maybe that's it right there. Is I don't like change. Nobody likes change, and it's like, whoa, it's too much change. Don't be changing the golf courses for this guy right away. But I don't know if he's going to be able to keep that up, right? Like he won one major, but can he keep doing that all the time? He hasn't proven to be that consistent yet.
Yeah. Absolutely, and there's the challenge of golf. We talked about parity before. Everybody's good, and can you do it repeatedly, not only over the course of a season, but over the course of 5 seasons, 10 seasons, 15. Right. When you think about the real greats in the game, right? The Tigers and the Arnolds and the Jacks, those guys did it for decades, never mind a year or two. So it'll be cool to see, interesting to see if he can keep this up. And if that gets old, if it's a novelty, the Wildcat offense in the NFL, every team ran it for a couple of weeks during a couple of seasons. And then eventually it was kind of debunked and we're back to more traditional offense. So we'll see if that happens in golf as well.
We will see how it plays out. And that was a pretty good segue there, right, into some football talk.
Football.
Into that. Week 3 of the CFL underway on Thursday, the Elks and the Lions. And the Elks, it's still so weird saying the Elks. They managed to get the first victory of the season. Thank goodness for them, because I don't know if you can go down 0-3 in a 14-game season and somehow still make the playoffs or come out the other end. So, kudos to the Elks. Just their second touchdown of the year, so they need to work on some offense, obviously. But Greg Ellenson got going, so that was good. And did
he get going? He really got going, didn't he? Went for like 140 something. But he had, I believe he had 1 yard
correct.
in a previous week. Was that correct? One receiving yard?
Yes.
So that was nice to see him and James Wilder Jr. The guy's I have this new appreciation for the running backs in the CFL, and I sound like such a newbie saying it, but I didn't watch it as closely as I am this year. And again, watching that guy run, man, he's shifty, he's fast, he's finding holes, going for over 120, I think it was, on 18 carries. That offense looked really good. I was a little disappointed, given that the Lions are back at home, fans are in the stadium, there's a new owner. I thought it was a really good story for the whole ownership group and fans in the stands, and the Lions to get to win their home opener. But no, it's the Elks. The Elks played really well. Michael Riley got held in check, obviously. 128 yards, I think it was, or something like that.
I don't know the exact number, but you're right. I thought the Elks defense played well. From the parts of the game that I saw, I didn't see the whole thing, but I thought they made some good stops kind of down near the end of the game. So, but you're right. Too bad for the Lions to not win at home, because I know they were pretty pumped to get back in that stadium. I think it was 656 days since they had played.
That many.
Because of COVID and everything, which is crazy.
Of course. I did watch. I got a chance to watch at least the first half of the game, a little bit of the second half as well. And you can really see the value of those guys in the trenches. And I won't talk about linemen too much, but the Lions lost. I think it was their left tackle early on in the game. And I don't know, but for the rest of the first half and for the little bit of watching the second half, Riley never looked comfortable at all. It's amazing how you take one cog and. Let's be honest, like receivers are sexier position, quarterback, of course, running backs are. The linemen, not so much. But you remove that one cog out of that, kind of that wheel in the middle, and it has such an impact on everybody else. Now Riley doesn't have enough time to step back and can't find the receivers, can't get them in their routes fast enough.
Right.
It was interesting to see that, and it was really pronounced, I thought, last night. But you know what? To that point, let's talk about the Elks defense. It wasn't just about an injury to the offensive line. I did see a stat this morning that said the Elks defense going back to 2019 has held Riley to under 160 yards, 4 games.
Yeah.
Right?
Riley doesn't seem to play well against his former team. Maybe they're
Absolutely.
I don't want to say they're maybe in his head so much, but it's interesting how he doesn't quite have his best game.
For sure.
And maybe he's still dealing with that elbow injury a little bit, right?
I think so.
The second he has less protection in front of him, maybe he's a little bit nervous about getting hit hard again and hurt.
Absolutely.
So that could have been a factor too. And just the one other game I think is a big one is the one tonight. Calgary 0-2. They do not have a victory yet.
Yes.
Levi Mitchell out for 6 weeks. And I was doing all this research trying to do some research on this Canadian quarterback, Michael O'Connor, who I thought was going to get the start. And then no, apparently it's this American Jake Meyer, who I know nothing about. Allie, do you know anything about Jake Meyer other than the U.S. Davis Aggies?
The Aggies, yeah. I did some research this morning as well. And it's interesting you noted that, and we're very specific to say the Canadian and the American. And I took the same stance as you, and I read a lot of stuff this morning. And I was thinking, wow, there's really a pronounced definition between the geographic origins of these two players. And I was wondering why that is. And let me ask you a question. Do you think it's on the coach's responsibility to play a Canadian in the CFL? Do you think that should even factor into the decision?
No.
Even this much?
No. You can't do that. You have to play to win. Yeah, you have to play to win. I mean, I don't know either of these quarterbacks well enough to know why he would have picked one over the other. Someone said, maybe because literally, like us, the players don't know anything about Jake Meyer. There's no film on him at all, so maybe they're going for the elements of surprise. We'll see. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, it's going to be a challenge either way for the Stamps to try and get into the win column here without their franchise quarterback, without the face of the league to some degree, but most outstanding player a couple of times over the last few years. So that'll be interesting. And the Owls have a pretty serious offense themselves, don't they? Right? They can get moving. I think their quarterback, Davis Jr., I believe, and William Stanback is their running back. And again, I've done a little research on him, and I will again, kind of praise the running backs in the CFL because this guy he had a breakout year last year with over 1,000 rushing yards, which I didn't think happened very often in the CFL. And it started off this year just the same way. So I'm excited to watch that matchup. I'm looking for the Stamps to try and get in the win column, but I think, as a betting man, I will probably put in my money on the Owls tonight in that high-powered offense.
Well, I'm going to start keeping a closer eye on the running backs just for you. So you and I can chat running backs more in depth next week. Because you're right. There are some absolutely great ones in the CFL. I'm actually interested tonight, living in this city now. I've never lived in Calgary before. I know it's a sports town, but now that I'm here, and if this team happens to go down 0-3, what the vibe will be like, just to get to know the fan base a little bit more out here.
Absolutely. So, get to know them. I know you're an Edmonton girl, and I know that there's a friendly rivalry between cities. So I'm intrigued as to how you'll get to know how the fan base feels. Really, is that in a mocking fashion? Is that no? I'd be interested to see how that goes.
There is no mocking fashion. I'm as a broadcaster, we'll call myself a journalist. I don't know if I'm a journalist, but I'm just curious, to see the vibe of the city. I will say, was it last week? I think, yes. Last week I was driving by the stadium just accidentally because I still don't know my way around the city. I was accidentally driving by the city right before the football game, and it was a beautiful night, and the crowds were flooding the stadium, McMahon Stadium, cool. And I missed that. I missed that CFL pregame vibe, and it was definitely in Calgary. Yeah, it was awesome to see fans heading back into the stadium. So that was cool. I need to get out to a game at some point here. I've never been to McMahon Stadium, so I'll need to make that happen.
Looks like a great vibe out there. Looks like a great passionate fan base out there. So I'm sure it'll be a party whether they're winning or losing. One real quick note: I have been paying attention to the betting line of this game that we're talking about tonight, and. Okay. Seemingly, the Stampeders are getting some money coming in on them. I had seen the line as much as 6.5 earlier today. It is a 6.5 Alouette favorite, and I'm seeing it right now on a couple of sports books down to -4 for for the Alouettes now, meaning that money is coming in on the Stampeders side. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if that's just those diehard Calgary fans out there waking up and getting kind of getting their wages in, or we'll see if there's something maybe you and I don't know.
I was going to say, did something happen that we are not aware of in the last hour? I don't know.
We'll see.
That's intriguing. Okay, we'll find out. All right. In the meantime, I have yet to mention our guest. I am super excited to have my very good friend Tessa Bonhomme on the podcast. She won a gold medal with the women's Olympic team in Vancouver in 2010. She is here in Calgary covering the Women's World Hockey Championship. She is in the bubble, which I can't wait to hear all about. Tessa, I can see you're really excited about the bubble. How's it going?
Bubble life is exactly what it sounds like. What everybody's been living, at least in Ontario, for the past, year and a half, 2 years. It's a lot, but you know what? I feel like it's worth it because we've waited so long for this tournament. I mean, from when COVID initially hit to it being canceled and then pushed to the following year in 2021 to, April, everyone's saying, you know what, April's not a good month. Let's push it till May 2021. And then obviously the hammer being dropped on the ladies so close to everything getting going. I mean, Team Japan was just about to board their flight to fly to Halifax for the start of the tournament. And the premier, who actually just lost in the election out there, he had pulled the plug on it last minute. So these poor ladies were ready to rock. Team Canada had been there, training, getting ready for the tournament, and the plug gets pulled, and they had no idea if and when this tournament was going to happen again. So now that they rescheduled it in August and we're all here and we're ready to rock, you know what? I'll stay in this bubble for the entire time. As long as this tournament gets going for these women and everything runs smoothly without any more hiccups, it's worth it for sure. And I think every single one of them will tell you the same, because I know I was talking to a few of them. They warm up outside in the parking lot and I'm like, how are you girls feeling? And they're like, nervous, like the puck hasn't officially dropped yet, so they still have that anxiety from what happened before left. So I think after today, once tournament gets going, I'm not going to say that things are going to loosen up by any means, because they won't. If anything, they'll tighten up. I think everyone's finally going to exhale and be like, okay, we made it. Like, here we are, we're doing this.
I like that little shot at the premiere there that you just kind of.
Yeah, me too. Good shade.
Lost by a landslide, just throwing it out there. I don't know. I honestly, I haven't checked, but I know Cassie Campbell, who's also a friend of ours, Tash, she had gone on Hockey Night in Canada and said that, she felt that he owed these women an apology. And I know that his heart was in the right place. He did it for a reason. He felt like he was protecting his people and whatnot. But I can tell you that bubble and the bubble that we're in right now is safer than any bubble that I've ever been a part of. We wear tracking bracelets, so they know if we leave our hotel room. Yeah, man. So it's like nothing was going to happen. And I'm with Cassie on that I feel like those women, all of them, deserved an apology because, in my opinion, if that was the World Juniors out there, the plug would have never been pulled. So that's neither here nor there. That's me guesstimating, but
wow.
I think
it kind of is not here nor there, though. Is it, Tessa? Like, would this ever happen to them? I mean, we're going to go right into this. Would this ever happen to any of the men's teams? Like the WIIHF didn't have a backup plan at all. I just don't think this would ever happen to the World Juniors or to the men's side.
I think that was the most disappointing part for a lot of these athletes. And, for myself, a player who is still invested in all of the teams playing and is still invested in the sport, an alumnus, if you will, of international hockey. I know that, all of a sudden my phone was blowing up with teammates I hadn't heard from for a while, and everybody was just going off like, how is this even a thing? I don't understand, okay, yeah, sure, pull the plug, but we all knew these are COVID times, so there needs to be another plan. And I think it was just pure disappointment. And, we're all human. We all make mistakes and we learn from them. And the only thing I can hope for is that the IIHF learns from that and makes sure that this never happens again. And I honestly don't think that any of the hockey federations will ever let it happen again. If we're ever in a situation similar to this, or even in any tournament really, because anything could happen. Totally. Just to have that backup plan. I mean, the only other time a women's worlds was canceled, I believe, was after 9/11. So and rightfully so. So that reason to me is pretty legit. And, when the pandemic in 2020 hit, that one as well makes a lot of sense. But to cancel something that could have taken place and have no backup plan, I think is a lot. And I think even for sponsorships and the city of Halifax and the province of Nova Scotia itself, it's a ton of money gone down the drain, and there's a lot of people that lost a lot of money on that, which isn't good. So I think that was a very big learning lesson for everyone, and let's hope it only happens once.
Really good point about the sponsorship. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
You mentioned the girls are like nervous. What is the rest factor going to be like for the teams?
So we covered 3 pre-tournament games, and I'm not going to lie, as someone who, as I said, is invested in this and is hosting this tournament and wants to pump it and get as much viewership as possible. I mean, this tournament, TSN is broadcasting all 31 games. So, I had mentioned I'm doing 3 games a day, and I was kind of making fun of it, but like, I'm so stoked we're doing all of these games. And so prior to doing those pre-tournament competition games, I was like, if you really think about it, these ladies were in isolation training by themselves. Like the team cohesiveness, the chemistry out there. I was like, man, what is this even going to be like? And I mean, for anyone who plays hockey out there, you can train as hard as you want in the summertime. Hockey legs are something that are so hard to get under you. And the only way you get them is by skating yourself. So I was like, I hope these teams have had enough time here to piece that together. And taking a full year off from actually playing competitive games. I mean, they're pros. I'm not going to lie. These women were training. A lot of them trained with the NHL guys in the off season. So I knew they were going to come with a certain level, but game pace, gameplay, those hard, crisp passes at full speed, shooting in stride, all that stuff. I was like, how's this going to look? And quite frankly, I was knocked off my seat. I was very impressed. Team Canada obviously hasn't won in the last 5 years. Last time they played was in 2019, and they won the bronze medal, not the color they wanted, but a medal nonetheless. And it was the first time that they hadn't made it to the World Championship final. And for them, that's a long time sitting on that. I mean, for someone who is competitive, that would eat me alive. Like, I gotta wait another year to deal with this. Like, come on, man. And I'll tell you what, usually before these tournaments with Team Canada, I'm always a little bit nervous. Like, oh man, do they have it? Like, frig, hopefully they grow and peak. And after that pre-tournament game, I'm like, whoa, okay. I hope the Americans are ready, because these ladies were buzzing. They were on fire. The only thing that wasn't clicking for them was finding the back of the net right off the bat, which it's a pre-tournament game. Like I said, you don't want to peak early. You want to, you're not peaking in high school. You want to peak in college and after that. So that's the plan, is to grow and build towards, the elimination rounds. And from what I saw, their starting point is the best I've seen. And I can't even remember the last time when I felt like this watching the team. So kudos to Gina Kingsbury, who, is running the team right now. Kudos to Troy, who is the head coach. And hopefully these ladies buy in and do what they can to bring gold back on home soil in Canada, which is
in Canada.
That always
so the U.S.
a little bit more.
So the U.S. has been the dominant side, right, for the last few years. I think they've won the last 5, I believe it was.
Yeah, 8 of 9.
And of course, 8 of 9. That's pretty dominant for the last decade. So besides the U.S., Canada, I know Finland obviously always has a great team. Are there any sleepers that we should be watching? I'm excited to watch hockey overall, so I'll be watching a lot of the games. But is there any teams that I should be especially excited to watch besides the obvious ones? The
things with Finland is, they are technically the defending champs. There
was some controversy, wasn't there, in 19?
The IHF is probably going to be really mad at me for saying this, but I don't care. They screwed up that call. That was the wrong call. I think they know it. I know Finland knows it. The government did award the team. So when a team wins, the government will supply a monetary bonus for the team. So they gave it to them as if they had won the gold medal. They were celebrated. They were given a parade, which is cool. But nonetheless, a call was screwed up. They ended up going into a shootout with the U.S., who has 21 to 21. Their goalie can score on a penalty shot. Their dangles are so sick. So they won in a shootout. And as soon as it went to the shootout, I knew, I'm like, as good as Noora Ratu is, the goalie for Team Finland, this is a tall order, man. And unfortunately for Finland, fortunately for Team USA, they won. So Finland, they've got a really young team. Not a lot of players came back from that squad, oddly enough. Strange. But they put a good outing against Team Canada on the power play. They hit 2 crossbars and a post. They actually scored the first goal of the game. And they're here without Noora Ratu right now. So they don't have their top goaltender. But their 2 goalies that were in, I was delightfully surprised at how great they showed. So Finland definitely. But after Finland, I feel like there's a bit of a drop-off. Russia tries. They're getting there. Switzerland is still Switzerland reminds me of Finland, 6 years ago, where they're playing just not to lose by a lot, as opposed to, you know what do we have to lose? Let's get out there and run and gun and try and keep up with them. Defense is obviously an important part of the game, especially if you're outmanned a little bit. You have to play proper and wait for your time. But I think it's a matter of these ladies getting the confidence at the younger levels before they enter the national program, which, to be honest, women's hockey is doing a fantastic job with that. And I've noticed a lot as well, especially in pre-tournament games with Czech Republic, even just watching Japan practice and play. The IHF on the women, with the women's side as well, what we do is every year, women from all the teams come together and they actually have a huge, massive training camp. So the strength coaches from Canada, from USA, from Finland, from Sweden, everyone gets together. And so you're learning, everyone's sharing knowledge and learning. And these players are getting to practice together. So now a player from Team Switzerland gets to train and practice and play with a player from Canada, from USA, from Japan. So all these ladies are getting to know each other. And I think that helps erase the fact that these women would come into these tournaments and the American and Canadian players were held so high on this pedestal. They were like these icons that couldn't be touched, and they were elite and they were extra and they were superhuman. And now it kind of pulls them back down to their level and is like, you're just like me, man. Hey, what's up? Spooner, long time no see. It makes them human. So when they're out there, they're not playing against this mega robot female hockey player. It's someone that they know. And it's like, well, I've practiced my saucer pass with you. Mine's just as good. So I think that is slowly, the more we do this, is going to level the playing field. And it's also going to help in terms of some national sporting organizations don't offer up enough funding for their program to get the proper type of training and coaching like we're fortunate enough to get here in Canada and in the US. And to be honest, Exhibit A of that is Sweden. They're not even in this tournament. They got relegated.
Right.
Relegated. Sweden?
Wow.
Like what? So their women's program doesn't really get proper funding. And I mean, people might say, well, money isn't everything. Well, actually it kind of is, and it helps a lot. So I think that the women's hockey world understood that and saw that and is trying to do their best to, without having to dump in a ton of funds. They obviously have to run these camps, but to help share knowledge that way.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's coming. I mean, women's hockey hasn't been around very long. The first Women's World Championship was back in 1990. I mean, that's
it, really? Yeah. I didn't know that. Wow.
Right?
It's coming.
Because I was alive then, and you would hope it would be years and years and years and years ago. Like my mom told me this one time, but right. Now I'm that mom, I guess.
Do you think this delay, Tessa, like you said, it's been such a long time since they played competitive games. It's been over a year and a half, I think, right? Since it got canceled last year and then delayed again. So the fact that young girls at home haven't been watching a lot of women play hockey on TV, how much does that hurt the game? Like that, such a big gap like that, does it?
Yes and no. I think that, watching hockey period is good for anybody, male or female. So obviously the NHL is on. What it hurts, I should say, it's for the women playing, just the exposure.
Right.
Because not all of them are, I guess, receiving sponsorship money. So a lot of them have jobs. But the good part is the PWHPA did actually manage to put on some Dream Gap Tour games south of the border. The American players put on showcase north of the border. Here in Calgary, actually, they played a little bit of a tournament here. It made it on air, which was awesome. You could also stream it, which was great. The tough thing for me always is, the WNBA actually is a really good example of this. Putting the sport on air is going to get viewerships. It's going to get interest, right? That Seattle Sonics game had 755,000 viewers tune in. Yep. That's so sick. So I think there's that, but I think there's also the side where parents need to be aware. My father, when I grew up playing, he scouts for the OHL, the Ontario Hockey League. And so I was always lugged around to the rinks with him watching these young guys play. And I was obviously heavy into the NHL. Quite frankly, before it was announced that the women could play in the Olympics, I thought I was going to be drafted in the NHL and I was probably going to play with either Wayne Gretzky or Mario Lemieux. Like, I was cool.
Of course.
That. Yeah. I would do
awesome.
That. And my dad actually had the wherewithal enough to make sure that I was aware that there were women out there playing. And, I was an offensive defenseman, and he introduced me to Geraldine Heaney. He went as far as running a girls' hockey school in Sudbury and managed to get Geraldine to come to Sudbury and teach us for a couple days.
Wow.
So I got to meet my idol live and in person, which is crazy back then, because if you really think about it, the only time they were on TV was on TSN when the Women's Worlds were happening. And so kudos to my father. But when I go to these training camps, or even here when there are fans in the rink, and I ask little girls, who's your favorite player? And they're like, no, Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid. I'm like, no. Who's your favorite female hockey player? Like, name me someone. And there are some times when they can't. And immediately I look right to their parents. And I'm kind of like,
right,
Tessa, but by the way, but I look at their parents like, this isn't your child's fault. This isn't, right?
No. Yeah.
One, it's obviously the media's fault because we're not giving them enough opportunity, but it's also, you can find this too. It's not that hard. There's magazines out there. There's posters out there. It's the internet. These kids are on their iPads and everything all the time, man. You're not fooling me. Show them websites, show them videos. Spooner's great. Sarah Nurse, like, there's so many women. Kendall Coyne on the American side, Hillary Knight. I can rhyme off like 50 names to you right now. These women should be just as popular as the Connor McDavids. I mean, you saw Connor McDavid after Kendall Coyne did that fastest skater. He was like,
yes.
I better make sure.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
How much of this championship would you say is preparation for Beijing? Or is this kind of on its own, obviously it has its own merit and its own value and stuff, but how much of this feeds into the preparation? Because that's not far away, right? We're only a few months away from, what I would consider the granddaddy, but maybe you tell me what kind of perspective they have.
That's the Stanley Cup. That's the Stanley Cup right there,
that's
man.
You nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the beautiful thing about this tournament happening in August, there is a silver lining to this being moved all the way to August, is that August 1 usually marks the beginning of what is called a centralization year for hockey teams ahead of an Olympics. So a centralized year is where all these women leave their jobs, leave their families, they up and move to one location. For Team Canada, it's here in Calgary. And they eat, sleep, and play hockey all day. For the Canadian women, they play in a midget AAA league out here. They basically play as many games as an NHL schedule. Leading up to the Olympics. It's kind of cool too, because these young players at the beginning of the year don't really like us because the women oftentimes beat them. By the end, there's major respect because they understand that we play such a solid, systematic game. We can skate with them. We can shoot with them. Sure, you guys can out-battle us. That's fine. You're 6'4", $180. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's cool because there's that camaraderie built. So getting back to your question, this tournament lands half a month into the teams already being together. So instead of this tournament being an evaluation, if you will, of sorts for teams, this isn't it. This is like, all right, let's see where we stand and what we need to work on moving forward in the few months coming. So teams are putting their best foot forward and they're already pedal to the metal. It's like, no joking around here, guys. Like, this is something. And these players understand, like, okay, I'm at centralization. I've made this team, but I haven't made the team yet. So everybody right now, it's almost like an Olympics before the Olympics in a sense. Do you know what I mean? So it's got that buzz. And it's crazy because there's no fans in the stands, and it was pre-tournament that I was covering, but like I was jacked. And like there was one point when I was like, they could even turn the music up, you know? But it didn't matter. Like the ladies on the bench were going when they scored. It was like, it felt like there was people in there just because the energy is so high with the ladies on the ice that I don't know. This is awesome. And like you said, this is the pre-tune-up before the big show. Yeah.
Tessa, Marie-Philippe Poulin was dealing with injuries a couple years ago. She is, I mean, tell us who we should keep an eye on for Canada and what kind of difference her return makes for this team.
Huge, first of all. Best player in the world, hands down. No questions asked. When she's healthy.
Yes.
I can't take much away from Hilary Knight because she's a Canadian killer. That girl scores the big goals at the biggest time. So between her and Mary, they know how to find the back of the net when it matters most. The toughest part for Pooh is that she's always going to be your hardest worker. She's always going to be that step ahead. It's like Sid, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care. You could do that. I did that last year. You know what I mean? He's always going to have a one-up. He's always going to find a way to stay relevant. He's always going to find a way to be a difference maker. And that's Pooh. And I think for her, she became such an immediate star. They threw the captaincy on her. She's not an outspoken, boisterous person. Mm-hmm. She's actually a very quiet, humble. She likes to be behind the scenes. So for her, I think it was a heavy load. She became a global ambassador for Gatorade. You know, she skyrocketed to the top, rightfully so. I think it was a lot for her. And then on top of it, to pile on those injuries, I think she was just trying to keep her head above water for a while. And with that, the team kind of spiraled. They had lost their leader in a sense. But now that she's back, it's like, oh, Mary didn't lose a step. If anything, she gained 1.5. Like, holy Amazing. Moses.
Wow.
And it's cool because she doesn't say much, like I said, but when she walks in the room or when she's around those players, everyone just kind of, you know your place, right?
Right.
That's like hockey royalty in a sense. But she's the kindest, most friendliest person. And, but you don't take that for granted because if you get in the way of winning with her, you're going to pay. So between her, there's a player here that you're going to laugh, Natasha, just because I'm going to throw this out there, but I'm being serious. Emma Maltese is a young player coming up. She plays at the Ohio State University, and she reminds me a lot of Poulin in her work ethic, in her love for the game, in her competitiveness, and just her smarts out there. And I've known her and her family for a little bit because I'm an alumnus of the Buckeyes. But I was nervous for her coming in because centralization is a big year and the World Championships is a big deal. And this is her first. So I wasn't sure how she was going to perform in her first pre-tournament game. And she was put in some positions that I was like, wow, you know, good for you. Taking draws in the defensive zone on a penalty kill in the last few minutes of the game. Like that's a lot of responsibility. And she's a winger and she stepped in and she made sure, you know, when you're in your D zone, you don't have to win the draw. Just don't lose it. Yeah, she was blocking shots. She was forechecking proper. She ended up getting an empty net goal, her first goal at the end of the game. But the young players that they've injected into this roster, I'll tell you what, they did a fantastic job betting these individuals. And kudos to the core group, the vets. These young players have more confidence than I've ever seen in rookies ever. Sarah Fillier is one of them. She had a ton of chances. Victoria Bach from Milton, Ontario. She had a ton of chances. She was getting dirty in front. I was like, I appreciate these chips on the shoulders, ladies. Like, keep it going. This is Canadian hockey. And then on the back end, which terrified me originally before the puck dropped, I'm like, these are a lot of rookies back here. You got a lot of young new faces and defense. In the NHL or here, anyone will tell you that's the toughest position to make the transition because your mistakes are usually big.
Yep.
But these ladies were jumping in on the plays. They were throwing their body around. And that's how I like to see Team Canada play. And they were. And it wasn't apologetic. It wasn't like, oh, oops. It was like, no, this is my spot. This is my jersey. This is my number. Like, you want to get around me, you're going to have to go through me, kind of thing. And I was like, the attitude of the team is proper. And a lot of it is driven by these young players, but it's driven by the young players because the vets have instilled that confidence in them, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, Tessa, you're firing me up now just listening to all this. So we'll get you out of here right away. But crystal ball, like, let's pretend it's going to come down to Canada and the US in the gold medal game. What does Canada need to do to beat the US? What's the difference going to be?
So, and this is no knock against the Canadian goaltenders because they're all fantastic, but on the American side, they've got a lot of experience and a lot of gold medals back there. And just watching the way they played in their pre-tournament game, they looked more at ease, comfortable. They made the big saves, but it was never scrambly. It was like Carey Price big saves. Like, yeah, you get there and, you slide across and you get there. So it's just going to be a matter of getting to those goaltenders because both teams have young defense cores. Both teams have young forwards that have been injected that are going to contribute. So I think it's going to be a very fast, a very physical, I'm going to repeat, very physical medal game, if that's the game. And it's really going to come down to goaltending. Both teams are so highly skilled. I've said it before. People are always like, oh, do you ever miss playing? You're covering the games and you're watching. And I'm like, hell no, these players are far too fast and far too skilled. Like, nah, man, I would just be opening the door. I'm good up here. So I think that's what it's going to be. It's a battle of the goaltenders and specialty teams with these two, because from what I saw in the pre-tournament competition is that these two are neck and neck, and barring injuries, hopefully nothing happens to anybody, they're fairly even Steven. And I mean, it's like anything, right? Any final, it does come down to goaltending.
Yep. Okay, well, we will be watching 2 weeks of this. You are going to be in that rink. Oh, there's no way you can sneak me into that rink at all, hey, to like cheer quietly from the rafters.
Like a big enough rink. Maybe if I was like a James Duthie or something, You're
as big as James Duthie in my books, for sure. No offense to James. How's your golf game, Tess?
A little bit non-existent lately. I've been busy. I was gone covering the Olympics for NBC, came back, and then came here. Yes. But before that, I got out a few times. Mediocre at best. But that's golf, right?
Yeah, that is golf. Okay, well, if you have a day off, I feel like we should try and get out while you're here. We'll head out to the mountains quick and get in the team. Al, you can fly down and join us if you can make it happen.
Oh, man, I would love to.
Okay, Tess, thank you so much. You look amazing. It was awesome talking to you. Have so much fun. 3 games a day. Man, this is a marathon, not a sprint, but I know you can do it. Have fun. Thanks for being here, and we will talk to you soon, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Tess.
Cheers.
I love talking to Tessa about hockey because she gets so fired. I mean, it's been years since she's played in the Olympics, but she gets so fired up about it. She just gets this energy about her that I'm just like, she just is so excited to be a part of it, and it's great to see.
She was wearing the passion like a button on her sleeve. Like, it was amazing. Yes. You could see it so visibly. And I love the fact that she said the Ohio State University, what she said, right? Just little things like that. She's obviously like grown up an athlete, and it was very, very, very cool to see. It was a lot of fun. I had like 5 more questions I could have asked her for sure, but she was super engaging.
We could have gone on forever. I am just really glad to see the tournament underway. I actually just randomly ended up golfing with Cassie Campbell the day after, or a couple of days after they had canceled the tournament, and talking to her, she was obviously really upset for the women as well. So yeah, it was awful when they canceled. It was just such a surprise, right? Nobody saw it coming. Like Tessa said, the women were already there. All the teams were getting ready to fly in. So the cancellation was brutal, but it's awesome that they figured a way to get it going here. So we will be watching for sure. All right, Al, I think that's it for us. Have a great weekend.
You as well. Good luck on the scramble this weekend. I once again, I'm going to say I'm excited to hear about the 71 that you're going to shoot on Saturday, and the 69 you're going to shoot on Sunday. So yeah, I'm excited to hear about it next week. Good luck and all that. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
You're listening to the Oh, Come On Sports Podcast with me, Natasha Staniszewski. Come on now!